have to admit, one of the most difficult parts of my life as a priest is something that I actually have to do pretty much every day, which is preach. I'm not really sure I actually enjoy preaching, if I'm going to be honest about it. Whenever I have to preach, it's always a concern that I'm going to get out the message that God wants me to preach. And though I sit and pray and try to pray a lot about what it is I'm going to say, and though I try really hard to make sure I'm hearing the Lord, I'm always concerned that I'm going to hit the mark. And in many ways, that's really true when I'm preaching in a homily at a funeral, because, say the wrong thing and you can cause an immense amount of pain to people. And so for me, preaching is not something that comes easily, or I would even say in many ways naturally. I do it because I'm called to do it. But it is one of those things I struggle with. And I'm always happy, really, when I'm done. And I think all of us in our lives and in our relationship with God are called to do things that really do take us out of our comfort zone, out of the things that we feel that we can do easily, that we can do well, that we can kind of do naturally. And one of the biggest things each of us is called to do, and I think it makes Catholics really uncomfortable, but yet is truly essential to sort of how we're called to live our faith, is our willingness to evangelize. Our willingness to share our faith with other people. Our willingness to put ourselves out there. And I don't think the biggest concern for most people is how people might react to them. I think a lot of us have sort of that same kind of fear that I can run into at times when I'm preaching. I'm not so sure I have the right words to say. I'm not sure that I know my faith well enough to be able to share it. I'm not sure I can tell people what God wants them to hear. And those are legitimate concerns. But I think what ultimately always gets me to preach is the promise that Jesus made to us. And it's a simple promise, and yet a really powerful promise. Do not worry. I will give you the words. And really, to preach the faith is really about coming to trust that Jesus will follow through on that promise. But each of us has to recognize that truth. We are called to preach the faith. Now, as it's reputed that St. Francis said, preach the gospel and when necessary use words. The first and most important way for us to preach our faith is obviously to live it. Is to allow our very actions to speak about what it is that we believe and allow others to see that belief through the life that we're living. But there are times we still need to be able to come to share our faith. I mean, I had to do that many times when I was at Digital, working as a software engineer. People would ask me about something and I would start explaining what I believed. Now, I didn't necessarily use faith terms at first, but inevitably what I was saying would either pique their interest, it would sort of maybe trouble them a little bit, I don't know what, and they would ask, well, why? Why do you believe that? And that opened the door. And I would simply start talking about my faith. And as soon as they were done listening to that, I stopped, because Jesus never forced people to listen to him. And so we need to recognize the same has to be true with us. We can't force others to hear what it is we believe. But when the door's open, we have to be willing to share it. We have to be willing to jump in that moment, to be able to share what it is we believe, because what we have to recognize is this truth: how blessed we truly are. We have the greatest message the world has ever known, and we have the one message that the world desperately needs to hear. For we have the word of salvation. For there is only one way to be saved, and that is through Jesus Christ. Now that doesn't mean non-Christians can't be saved. They're going to be saved through Jesus somehow. I don't know how. I leave that up to God. But our lives are made easier when we truly know Christ. Our lives are made better when Jesus is in our life. Our life makes more sense when we know the truth. And the truth is not something. It's not a set of ideas. It's not some principles that we follow. The truth is a person. Jesus, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." If people are going to come to know the way they're called to live, the way they are supposed to walk, the journey, the path they are supposed to take, the only way they can enter on that way is through the truth. And if they are going to truly embrace life to its fullest, to become the person they've been created to be, to open up to the truth of what it means to truly be human and to experience the reality of that humanness, the only way that is possible is to know the truth. We have an obligation to share the truth, to share the person of Jesus with others. It's not an option in Christian life. It's not just some people who should be doing that. It's every baptized Christian is called by Christ to share the truth of the faith. And it's hard sometimes. It can be daunting, and we can be unsure if we're the right person. We're not alone in that. You read most of the prophets, and they had the same problem in the Old Testament. But be sure of this. As hard as it may be for you to do, Jesus will be there for you. He will help you to know what it is you're called to say. We can trust on that. Let us not allow fear, uncertainty, doubt to get in the way of what we're called to do, of who we're called to be. Let us allow the world to truly hear the greatest message possible. Let us help them to know the way, the truth, and the life. Let us help them to come to experience the reality of Jesus in their life. Let us be willing to take the words of St. Francis to heart. Preach the gospel, and when necessary, use words. Let us first live the life, and then share the life with our words. God bless.